Next on the list is the Poposia Conservation District. They have one project this year for a requested grant of $35,000. And they are attending, Kelsey is attending virtually if you have any questions.
I think we can move on.
Okay. Next on the list is Saratoga Encampment Rollins Conservation District. They are requesting 5 projects this year for a total requested grant of $160,000. And Garrett was going to be attending virtually if you have any questions. Okay, next we have the Sheridan County Conservation District. They have 6 projects for a total of $210,000 out of account 1. And I believe that Jackie Turner is available on Zoom if you have any questions.
Don't hear any.
Okay. Next, we have the Shoshone Conservation District. They are requesting they have 2 projects this year for a requested grant amount of $53,000. And I think Elise is the person we have questions for. I don't know if she was able to attend virtually or not. I'll do my best. Okay.
No questions, I guess.
Okay. The next group on the list is the South Bighorn Conservation District. They have 1 project request this year for a requested grant of $22,500. And Ashley is from, make sure I'm not getting myself lost again. Ashley was going to be available on Zoom if you had any questions. Okay, that takes us to the South Goshen Conservation District. They have 1 project this year for a requested grant of $12,500. And I believe Jamie Phipps was going to be available by Zoom if you had any questions.
No questions, I don't think.
Okay. So that takes us to the Sublet Conservation District. They have 5 projects this year for a requested grant of $175,000. And I think Keller was going to be here if you had any questions. Okay. So that leaves the last district under account 1 being the Washakie County Conservation District. They have 1 project request this year for a requested grant of $35,000. And Amanda, I think, was going to be available on Zoom if you had any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Moore.
hate to break the spell here, but I do have a question.
Okay.
Not for a sponsor, but this is a good example. This project application from Washakie. It's got an estimated total project cost of $479,000. I don't ever remember seeing that before. Like, I mean, and there's several of them in here that are several hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a $35,000 grant.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit? Because that's a big project.
Absolutely. I can't remember, that was maybe around the 2017 timeframe ballpark. We got a request from the districts at large to remove the overall project cap. And I think the feeling behind that is water development money is good cash in the bank money because we pay cash at the end, and showing that you have cash grant available to pay expenses then allows you to leverage things like Trout Unlimited and Ducks Unlimited and some of the other funding sources that can provide in-kind services. So it allows you to leverage other project funding sources by the very nature of our funding. And so it's not uncommon, honestly. I think we did diversion on the Wood River that could have gone through the traditional program. It was for one of the big irrigation districts, could have gone through the traditional program. And because of the way they were putting in a fish passage structure, they chose to bundle small water funding with Trout Unlimited and some of the other funding programs to leverage the flexibility of the small program for even some of the larger, more expensive projects. And so these stream restoration ones are another example of projects that tend to have larger dollar amounts for the overall project costs, but by the nature of our funding, they can then leverage Game and Fish funds and their design team and Trout Unlimited and Ducks Unlimited to utilize our cash in the bank against some of the other in-kind services and the other sort of funding programs. So that's a good question. That is something that has sort of grown with the program over the last few years.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Jody or any of the sponsors? Thank you, Jody.
Mr. Chairman, that takes us to the end, I believe, of the account one small water projects. I'll leave it up to you if you want to vote on those as a block, or if you want to wait and go through the account two as well and then vote on everything as a block.
I believe since we haven't had a lot of questions, maybe we go ahead and go through the account too as well. And
Okay.
So starting at the top of account two, we have Laramie Rivers Conservation District with one project for a total grant of $35,000. And I believe they are online if you have any questions.
And we're on page 100 if you're following along.
I don't hear any questions.
Okay, so that takes us to the next group on the list, which is the Little Snake River Conservation District. They have 4 projects under account two for a total requested grant of $120,000. And once again, Dawn's here if you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Vore?
there's Don. I was probably sounded a little facetious this morning, but seriously, you guys have been doing a lot of projects for a lot of years, and it's been a long time since I've been over there, but where are you finding places to put them? And I don't mean that derogatorily. I respect your program a lot, and I'm just there seems to be no end of these kinds of projects that are available across the state, and hats off to you for sure. But I'd like to go over and see it sometime.
Please. Chairman Craig, commissioners. Yeah, this program definitely sells itself. You know, this isn't something that we go out and advertise. This isn't something that we push. Landowners come to me, whether it be the post office or the store or in my office or phone calls on the weekends. This program definitely sells itself. As far as land, landowners are spread kind of everywhere. They have, you know, allotments or land spread different places, BLM allotments. And then we also did take over part of Sweetwater County a couple years ago. So some of these are spread over into that land as well. I believe we are the first or largest or second largest conservation district in the state now. So that's where that land kind of spreads out to.
Another question, Mr. Chairman. So are you've gone west into like Shell Creek
Not
toward Rock Springs?
towards Rock Springs. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it all encompasses or how far it goes. Pretty close to Flaming Gorge, but yeah, there's a pretty good chunk over there.
Vermilion Creek and that part of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dawn?
I was almost running the risk of sounding like Jerry Geis used to. You remember, he would be like, "Oh yeah, you go out there to that one lone tree and you turn right," and
That's how I feel.
Thank you, Dawn. I don't think anyone else has any more questions, do you? Okay, thanks.
Okay, that moves us down the list to the Matitsi Conservation District. They have one project from account two with a $35,000 grant. And I believe Stefan was going to be available on Zoom if you had any questions.
I don't hear any.
Okay, next on the list is the Paposia Conservation District. They have 5 projects for a requested grant out of account 2 of $175,000. And I believe Kelsey is available on Zoom if you have any questions.
No questions.
Okay. That takes us to Saratoga Encampment Rollins Conservation District. They have 1 project out of account 2 for a $35,000 grant. And I believe Garrett's online if you have any questions. And I forgot to say for our new commissioner, you'll see that column on the left there, and occasionally you'll see a little shovel on the left-hand side there. Those projects applied for and have received shovel-ready status, which means I can release notice to proceed and they're ready to begin as soon as the contracts are signed. So that's what that little shovel indicates. Okay, so as long as I don't lose my place here, that was Saratoga. Next one, Sheridan County Conservation District. They have 2 projects out of account 2 for a requested grant total of $70,000. And Jackie is available if you have any questions. Okay.
Continue on.
Thank you. That takes us to South Bighorn Conservation District. They have 1 project out of account 2 for a requested grant of $35,000. And Ashley was going to be available on Zoom if you have any questions.
I guess there are none.
Okay. Next, we have the Sublette County Conservation District. They have 2 projects out of account 2 for a requested grant total of $25,000. And I believe Keller was going to be here today if you had any questions. Okay. And then that takes us to the last group this year is the Uinta County Conservation District. They have 1 project grant requested grant out of account 2 for a total project grant request of $35,000. And I believe Carrie Saby was going to be available on Zoom if you had any questions.
Don't believe there are any questions.
It's a good day.
No one has any questions in general of the program?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Vore?
I, in reading this bevy of project applications, I was impressed with the description of public benefit. And thinking about the extent of the project list and what those effects look like on the ground. And it has to be the accumulation of that across the state's got to be pretty impressive. We've got to be starting to see some green spots out there in places. And this is certainly not a conversation that we need to necessarily take up at this point, but is there still concern and issue with the public benefit being accrued from these projects and from this program, or is this just something that we do now because we've done it for 20 some years?
That's a really good question. It is required, as you know, statutorily that there be a public benefit in order for us to be able to make grants for this program. And so when I go around the state and I talk to people about the small water program, I impress upon all of the sponsors the importance of including the public benefits at a resource level, the specific resource level benefits in each of the applications, so that the commission and Select Water can understand these are the anticipated benefits of this project on the ground, so that they know that when they're approving it, this is what we anticipate the benefits of the program will be. I haven't had anybody mention specifically any concerns about that. As far as specifically, so it doesn't come up at the commission level like it used to. And as you have indicated, these projects are across the state and the benefits are obvious. And you drive around and you can see that there is this ephemeral drainage is now a year-round stream because we got the cattle off the riparian, and the riparian slowed the water down. And now what once was an ephemeral drainage is now a year-round stream. And we've got good examples of that right here, even in Laramie County. So it's all over this state, the benefits of this program. So maybe it's a combination of both, that we have very visible and obvious public benefits associated with the work that we've been doing on the ground. But because it is a constitutional requirement, it's included in the application, and we quote the sponsor's public benefit statement directly from the application into the recommendation, just so that's put in for the record.
Mr. Chairman, I might just add to, when this program was new, boy, it might be almost 20 years ago now, 15 to 20 years ago, I think. At that time, because it was new and it was a little different than what we normally do, maybe there was some discomfort in that, which showed the need to really pinpoint or point out that public benefit. But every one of these types of projects that are eligible under the small water program are really to improve the health and functionality of the watershed. Yes, it benefits that particular landowner that's making that improvement, but it has much further benefits, and kind of, what I've heard other people say, you might have water quality issues or this and that. And it really, at some point, when you get enough of these on the ground, and I would imagine Little Snake's probably a good example of that, you start seeing that tipping point where you're getting improvements in water quality, you're getting streams or drainages that maybe used to be intermittent, flowing in the spring when you had some snow melt, these low elevation drainages that are now turning into perennial streams, wetlands in the same fashion that used to just be there during irrigation, but now that we've put in these improvements, that they're more year-long wetlands. So I think, again, that public benefit is really inherent in these types of projects, but we have new commissioners, Jared, and new legislators all the time. So I think we need to continue to point out that public benefit and make sure everybody understands what the value of the program is. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Vore.
Thank Director Mead for that comment. And I too would like to extend a thank you to the conservation partners that the Water Development Program has across the state, for embracing this program and to putting it on the ground, because that's what it takes, is people that will actually roll their sleeves up and go out and find the money and get the shovels out and get it done. And that's how it shows up on the ground. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jody. Is there a,
Mr. Chairman? I'd just like to add one comment, and it's kind of a personal comment because I'm from the northeast corner of Wyoming, and we talk about it being statewide, but there's a huge void in the northeast corner of Wyoming, and it's sad to me, and I want to work on that. And that's the total of my comment. Thank you.
I think that can be said about other places in the state as well. Commissioner Hosey, we maybe all need to try to sell this to some of our other conservation districts and tell them there's some opportunities out here you guys are missing, need to look into that.
And Mr. Chairman, we'd always be happy to sit down with those different districts that haven't participated in the program and help them understand it better if there's any apprehension, and give them as much information as they need if they would like us to.
Any other questions or comments? So Director, we need to approve this. Is there a motion? I don't see anything. We just
We don't have a spelled out motion, but it would just be approval of the Account 1 and Account 2 small water project contracts.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vore, second by Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jody.
All right, Mr. Chairman, moving on to our next agenda item, and that's just a legislative update for me. You recall I sent out a kind of mid-session update, and I just kind of want to let everybody know where things ended up. There really weren't a lot of changes from the mid-session update, but just to point out a few, of course, the omnibus water bill planning, which was House Bill 87, went through no changes at all from what you saw back in January when we reviewed that. So That was good. Just had all of our master plans and level twos and, water research program information in there. The Senate File 70, which is our omnibus water bill construction, just a quick update on that. So Alkali Creek had an amendment. As you recall, we had what was in the original bill was a time extension on the appropriation for Alkali Creek. That was the $59 million, and that was a one-year extension to July 1st of 2027. That remained in there. And there was an amendment that also added that it was the intent of the legislature that no further time extensions shall be authorized for the project. And beginning on January 1st, 2027, funds from the appropriation shall not be expended or used to exercise eminent domain for the purpose of the project. So added a couple of caveats to that project. The next one I would point out would be an evaluation of the small water program by the office. And that was brought, I believe it was in a committee meeting early on to the construction bill. And really what it intends to do is for the office to evaluate the small water project program and determine if there's opportunities for streamlining and incorporating efficiencies. And I think it's really focused on the application and review process. And so I think we've had that discussion a little bit with the Select Water Committee back on March 6th before they left Cheyenne and went back home. And the intent would be to gather up some information, give us a little bit of time. I don't think we're going to be ready for the May meeting because that's only, a month and a half away. We typically reserve time at our August meetings to talk about those things. So we'll get together information, help everybody understand the program, and compare and contrast that to a couple of other programs that I think were mentioned as part of that amendment. Wasn't actually in the amendment, but some of the testimony that was provided on from the bringer of that amendment. And we'll sit down and talk about that in August. And if we can pinpoint any efficiencies, we'll do that. And we'll ask for your feedback if you see any efficiencies. I know Lee's got a lot of experience in his past life working for SCS. And so those types of inputs would be valuable for us. So we'll embark on that, and more to come on that in August. And then another one in the construction bill was related to the Battle Lake Forest Management and Demonstration Project. Again, this was in the Little Snake River Valley. And what this is, and I guess during our mid-session update, I mentioned at the January 21st meeting at the Select Water Committee meeting, so that was the day after the commission reviewed the construction bill, there was an amendment to the bill to include a study that would look at this project as a test case, the Battle Lake project, and then look at how evapotranspiration and potential water yield is affected by the forest treatments that are planned for that piece of property. That was originally $155,000 from the general fund, so it's not coming out of water development account funds. And originally it was going to the UW Water Research Program. There was an amendment during the session to change that to the Ag Experiment Station, which is under the Department of Ag under UW. So that's how that will play out. We really won't have much involvement in that. We'll just provide that funding to that particular department at University of Wyoming to conduct that study. That's pretty much all I have for the construction bill. If there's no questions on that, I'll move into the water districts, the Senate File 68 and the funds for maintenance projects. Just as a reminder, this was discussed in the interim by the Select Water Committee, and the commission was involved in those discussions. Most of that discussion occurred in August. And it was really looking at how do we get a handle on aging infrastructure and how can we help the different types of special districts in the ag sector, watershed improvement districts, water conservancy districts, irrigation districts, help themselves more or less. So they can assess themselves further now and have actual accounts set up for major maintenance projects. And then they can also take those funds in those accounts and they can invest them in through the state treasurer and local government investment pools. So there was no changes to that specific legislation, and it passed during the session. So that's a good thing for the districts to set some money aside and think about trying to replace that aging infrastructure in the future. So that should help our program as well.
Mr.
Hey.
Chairman. Mr. Director, is in the conversation with that you just mentioned, with the watershed improvement districts and so forth, is it more of an issue, or is it an issue of entity formation to be able to reach the requirements, the eligibility requirements for the program, or what? I wasn't sure I tracked with what the conversation was that you had with Select Water.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vore, I don't think it was an eligible entity issue. My recollection, and I don't know if this is totally accurate, but in years past, I think there's been conversation where maybe districts are accumulating funds in an account that aren't necessarily for the annual O&M. And there were some concerns maybe in the past, I don't know, on a county level perhaps, that they're kind of just accumulating funding for no purpose. And so I think this was really just statute clarification that pointed out, hey, there is a purpose for accumulating funds like this, and that is for these long-term replacement type projects. So they're not scrambling. It's being proactive instead of reactive, really, to situations that we know is coming. In all of these districts, it's no different than our critical aging irrigation infrastructure, and knowing that a lot of these projects are 50, 75, 100 years old at this point. They're falling apart. We know they're going to need to be replaced, and it's just to get ahead of that. So more of a clarification, I would say. I don't know if there is actually any kind of a restriction in the current statute before this additional legislation.
Another question. So is it commonplace that the districts or that entities are amassing funds for future use for emergency situations, or what's going on out there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vore, I would say that on a case-by-case basis, there's probably districts that, the larger districts, I would say, that have a little bit more capacity are probably setting aside emergency funds. The smaller ones where, they're getting by from year to year, maybe not so much. So I wouldn't say it's a problem. I would say it's something that probably needs to be done more often.
Another question, Mr. Chair. Is there a procedure, or is there a process by which that's something that they're encouraged to do? Do you know, or there isn't any requirements that I know that I'm aware of?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vore, a lot of the encouragement, I would say, is when they come to us for studies. And so say we have a Shoshone master plan that just got approved through the planning bill, and we've got additional master plans, I think, that Barry will be talking about. I can't remember for sure the list for this upcoming year, but we would put together, where are their deficiencies? What is a long-term plan for these special irrigation districts or agricultural districts to modernize their infrastructure, and more of a financial plan of here's where they are now as far as assessments. Here's where they might be able to get help either through our program or federal funding programs. And if they weren't able to get help, here's how much their assessments might need to be. If they are eligible to get help, then here's where the assessments might be. So through those planning efforts, we try to give them the full picture of what they're going to be facing in the future and how to set aside funds to accomplish that.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, let's see, where did I leave off here? Okay, so the next bill I wanted to give you an update on was Senate File 69, and that's the Waste and Stormwater Infrastructure Study. And again, there was quite a bit of conversation about that with the Select Water Committee and the Commission being present in our meetings throughout the last summer and fall. And this was the $8 million from the general fund. I believe it was from the general fund. And that was for stormwater and, well, really, I should say wastewater and stormwater information throughout the state. in conjunction with the drinking water infrastructure throughout the state and the DEQ getting a better handle on that through asset management plans with all the communities throughout the state. So really, there was no amendments that I recall, quite a bit of discussion. I think there was one amendment that addressed just public access to the data once it's acquired. And so the $8 million was appropriated for that. And I would expect that to move forward here in the next several years. Obviously, it's going to get started, but it's going to take several years to get through that. That's the last on the agenda, but I did want to make one other comment, and that's in regards to the budget bill. If you recall, I'm not sure if I provided this in my mid-session update, but during the Joint Appropriations Committee meeting back before the session started, when we took our budget, our operating budget, to the Joint Appropriations Committee and explained it to them, there was actually an amendment by them to take the Board of Control funding, which usually comes out of account 1 or has been since 2017, and put that back on the general fund. So that is the way the budget bill went into the session. Of course, there was a lot of conversation about the budget and during this session, and we went back to the governor's original budget, but where we ended up was that held. And so in the future, for the time being, the Board of Control funds will come out of general funds. So on a biennial basis, that would equate to about $17.3 million that would not be diverted any longer out of account 1. Not saying that couldn't change in the future when we need a budget balancer, but that's really good for our program. So wanted to point that out too.
Thank you, Director. Anybody have any questions? Or I have just a comment. I would say that I'm happy to hear that funding's been restored essentially for a time being to us rather than, again, coming out of the general fund, because that's something that ever since I've been on the commission has been talked about. And so it's just for this biennium for the next 2 years?
Mr. Chairman, it would be for the next 2 years, but barring somebody changing that, that's how it would most likely go into the next biennium, showing it coming out of general fund. So it would have to be something that would be changed through the Joint Appropriations Committee or during the session at some point in the future.
What would it take for that to become permanent?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure anything's permanent in the legislature and statutes, so I guess I can't comment on that.
Okay.
But I will say, this isn't the silver bullet to all of our demands that we see on the program. Because again, if we just look at no infusions of funds, which we have had over the past several sessions, and we just look at what we get through the severance tax distribution to account 1 and account 2, and then some of the investments on those balances in our program or our accounts, where we started was we'd have about $14 million on an annual basis. And this takes us up to about $22 or $23 million. If you recall, we had, I believe the number was about $55 million of requests this year, but we were living off some prior kind of infusions of funds that has been helping us. But again, not a silver bullet, but definitely appreciate it, and we'll definitely make an impact.
Thank you. I have a question on that Senate File 69, the wastewater and stormwater infrastructure study. We don't fund wastewater projects, so is this study something that we're just assisting with, or can you give me a little bit more information on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So we don't fund wastewater and we don't fund stormwater. And on the drinking water side, we really just fund source and transmission. So we don't get into all the pipes and the distribution lines in town and throughout the different blocks and everything. But when we do our master plans, we do put together a pretty comprehensive look at the drinking water system. So that would include the water treatment side of things as well, to point out where we see deficiencies and improvements that would need to be made, because it's a whole system. You can't just look at one piece, and we do hydraulic models and everything else. But you're correct. So really, this is going to be a tool. We will be involved. We've got a lot of master plan information. If you recall some of the discussion, again, I think it was in August, they had a pilot project program through DEQ State Lands, administers really the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, and set aside funding was used for this pilot project which that's also going to be used for the drinking water side of these asset management plans statewide. So a lot of that master plan information, and we definitely don't have master plans for every community throughout the state. I think we've done about 80 or something in the last 20 years, if I remember right. But that information can be very valuable. So we're not duplicating information, and that's a good start to populating at least those communities where we have master plans in regards to those asset management plans. And we've already done that on the pilot program, and it was pretty successful. And then in the future, as far as funding of those wastewater type projects, or in some instances, the stormwater type projects, they as in the sponsors would be eligible under the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, or in some instances under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for grants and loans.
So I'm assuming then we will be selecting a consultant to conduct this study this summer?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, our office won't be involved in that,
Oh.
but DEQ and state lands will definitely be involved in that. And we're happy to
Okay.
assist anywhere they want us to.
Any other questions for the director? So these are just informational. There's no action required here.
Mr. Chairman, correct.
Okay, thank you. I guess we're ready to move on.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to agenda item number 7. I'll ask Barry to come up, and he's really just going to go over the new applications for studies that we received from sponsors as of March 1st.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It gives me great privilege to be here to talk to you about the new applications that we received this year, and also kind of remind you of the process, because as we kind of talk about in our office internally, 1 year is just long enough to forget what you did a year ago and the process. And I think I've heard that from some commissioners. No names will be given, but I have heard that. So it's just long enough to forget the process. So I'm going to remind you of the process this morning a little bit. So our deadline for applications was March 1st this year, as it is every year. And we received 12 applications, 12 new applications. That compares, just to give you an idea, last year we had 17 applications, the year before 9, and so forth. The average, we're averaging within the last 5 years about 15 applications. So we're down a little bit, but not much. Since these applications came in, our staff got together, planners got together, and all these projects have been assigned to various project managers in the planning division. Also, thanks to Bill Brewer in the construction division, they've assigned a construction division person that will be an advisor. So you see the advisor column there on the sheet, and that is a construction division typically advisor. And then what we're in the process of doing now, obviously per our operating criteria, we are to visit each of the sites as we develop our preliminary recommendations. And you'll be hearing more about the recommendations in the timeline here in a minute. But so the project managers are busy setting up the various site visits per the criteria for each of these projects. And then you'll see the blue columns there on your sheet, and that is where we have preliminarily assigned commissioners. As you know, the process is that we have 2 commissioners on every project to shadow that project through the life of the project. We talk about cradle to grave, and when I say cradle to grave, we're talking about site visits when possible. Obviously, you'd be involved in reviewing the proposals, involved in the interview process, and then when the project gets actually going, funded and gets going, then it would be also in the kickoff meetings. If you're welcome to attend those, and we'd love to have you there. And then where possible, also on the backside, when the draft results presentations come in and we're out there in the communities and the irrigation districts, whatnot, presenting that information, and you're invited to those as well. So cradle to grave. Relative to the assignments, and you'll see that what we've tried to do is put them by water division, but that obviously that's the first cut when possible. But obviously we look at past history. The other thing, we have to look ahead, because September's our interviews. And remember, we do 5 sets of concurrent interviews going on in 5 different rooms at the same time. So it gets to be a little hairy to make sure that, one of you doesn't have to be in 2 rooms at the same time. And so that has to figure in it too. But relative to water divisions, we received applications in Division 1 from 2 folks. In Division 2, another 2. Division 3, we received 5 applications. And then in Division 4, we received 3 applications. So certainly it's not the same across the board. So given that we received 12 applications, we have 12 projects, and then we are assigning 2 commissioners to each. That's 24 commissioner slots. And if you do the math and you figure it out, the way that works out is, given that we have 10 commissioners and we have 24 slots, 6 of you will only have 2 projects to shadow. 3 of you have been given 4 projects to shadow. And I can tell you which commissioners are the lucky ones or unlucky ones, depending on how you view this. The four commissioners with 3 projects are Commissioner Craig, Commissioner Cayley, Commissioner Lawson, and Commissioner Vore are the four commissioners that got 1 extra project to balance it all out. So the rest of you only got 2 projects to shadow. So if we look at the projects themselves and just briefly, and I will tell you, this is all very drafty at this point. You know, we haven't gone out, we haven't visited the sites. We're just looking at the application materials and so forth at this point. So this is just a real rough first cut, but we want to get it on paper so you can see it and kind of breaks out. Of the 12 projects, 2 of them are level 1 new development projects, and we've got what looks like to be municipal rural domestic water master plans. We have 5 level 2 projects that are new development, and to include a tank study, groundwater supply study, regional supply study, and a reservoir supply study. We also have 2 projects that are level 1 rehab projects, look to be irrigation district master plans on first brush. And then 2 projects that are level 2 rehab projects, raw water supply and a diversion dam rehab project. And then last but not least, there is in-stream flow studies. If you remember that every year, typically the Game and Fish comes to us, they're going to do in-stream flow segments that they want hydrologic analysis of. We do the hydrologic analysis of those, but if you remember, per statute, they pay for the study. But we run the study and manage the consultant and so forth. We do the hydrologic analysis, but they are in statute. They have to pay for the study, but it's run through our office, and that's in statute. That was changed a few years ago. So we will have to have a couple commissioners on that. So as I mentioned, this is very drafty at this point. So when you see the list, note that project titles may change, descriptions may change, levels may change. We get out there and find out, oh, the real level 1 is not what we want here. It's a level 2. I mean, just because somebody's asked for something, sometimes they just say, we want a level 1 and a level 2, or, you know, sometimes they don't know what they need. And so that's our job to go out there and figure out what makes the most sense. So once we do the site visits and so forth, you know, we'll have a much better feel for these projects, and you're going to hear about these projects here in the timeline a little bit. So as I mentioned, project managers will be inviting the commissioners that are listed there. I do need to know about conflicts. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But they will invite you to the site visits. And of course, your attendance is totally optional. If you can make it, great. I'd love to have you there, learn more about the projects. I know some of you have taken that advantage to learn more about the projects and be on the ground and so forth. And one of the great opportunities is that first site visit we do, because at the first site visit, it's just our staff, okay? And it doesn't have consultants. Later on, there'll be an opportunity later. If you can't make the first one, you want to go out again, there is an opportunity when we get into consultant selection where we're going to have a site visit with the consultants. And that's another opportunity where you can go and visit the site. So as I mentioned, attendance is optional, but we are on a tight timeline. So because of that, we have to have our preliminary recommendations. You know, we're all gearing up for the May meeting. We have to have preliminary recommendations put together early April. And so these site visits, we've got them pretty well set. So you're going to be reached out to by our project manager, telling you when they are. And some of them I know, there's one even I think tomorrow. Give you an idea, it's a short fuse, and we understand that, but we just want to make you aware of them. If you want to make them great and can make it, that'd be awesome. So the main thing I need today before you leave would be to know of any conflicts. I know in the past, we've had some commissioners that had a conflict on a certain project or something. But I need to know if there's any conflicts, if we need to make any changes here. Like I said, these were preliminary assignments, but you need to let me know before the end of the day, before you leave, if you have a problem with any of these projects or there's going to be a conflict, if you perceive a conflict. Okay, I know in the past we had the situation, we had a commissioner say, well, hey, I'm one of 700 landowners on a irrigation district, and here the irrigation district's coming to the master plan. Does that make it a conflict? And the answer to that question was no, you're one of many, several hundred. Now, if you were on the board, then I would think twice about having you on that project. But just being one of the ones that are getting served by the system, no. So that gives you a feel. That's come up before, but let me know before the end of the day if you see any conflicts. Next steps, we'll talk briefly about the next steps. Early April, you will receive the applications that were sent, the raw applications, that exactly what we got in the office. They'll be bundled up. Katie will be putting that together in the e-notebook, and we'll send it out to you so you can see the applications, okay? And then we're all, as I mentioned, we'll have the site visits. We're gearing up for that May meeting, which is May 7th. That is joint with Select Water. And at that time, we're going to walk through each of the projects in detail, and you'll hear the director's recommendations. Obviously, the project manager will go out, we'll take a first cut at these recommendations, so forth, work with senior staff here to come up with director's recommendations in regard. And it should be noted that just because we have 12 applications doesn't mean all 12 are going to go forward. And sometimes they fall out. Last year we had, I think it was 17 originally, and the time we were done, it was down to 12. And that could be eligibility issues, concerns, or maybe they didn't follow up on a previous master plan or whatever. I mean, it could be different issues we get into when we find out about these projects. So don't expect, as I mentioned, not only may titles change, there may be some that fall out. So then you have less of an assignment if it falls out. So, but you'll hear about all these in May, and we'll walk through each. We'll also have the sponsors here. So they'll speak to their project and the need for the project and so forth, and you have a chance to ask them questions at that time in May. And at that time, we will be asking for the commission to see, we'll be seeking preliminary approval to begin consultant selection. Because as you know, right after we do that in May, they're off and running. And there's a whole process we've got to follow per statute, which we do. And did you have something you want to say? Okay. I'm kind of rolling through this. So right after the May meeting, if preliminary approval is granted, then we start soliciting interest in the projects with consultants out there. There's statements of interest, statements of qualification. We have a whole plethora of different ways we do that. We do through state construction website. We do it through our agency. Obviously, we have a mailing list of consultants, as well as we put it, Gov Delivery, and then we also run advertisements in the paper. So we pretty well blanket it. We use Casper Star on legal notices and so forth. So various different ways. Consultants have about a month to get their information in, statements of interest, statements of qualification on various projects. And then we get those in, and then we have about 2 weeks to turn it around with our staff and so forth. And we have criteria we have to follow relative to shortlisting. And ideally, we'd love to have 5 firms that we can shortlist, but we have all the criteria there, none the least of which is consultant past performance. We do look at that. We do also look at proximity to the project and so forth. But the one time where we do have to look at out-of-state versus in-state is at the shortlisting phase. So that's done right off the top. Anyway, 2 weeks to turn that around in-house, we do that. And then July 1, RFPs will go out to the firms that we've shortlisted. And they'll have about a month to put together their proposals. Actually, July 31st, proposals will be due. And during that month, as I mentioned, that second site visit, that'll be a site visit with consultants in tow in July. And the consultants, gather information and be putting together their proposals such that we have it July 31st in our office. And then those proposals, as you know, and you all get a little bundle at the August meeting, a bundle of proposals. We sent them out to the selection team, and just to refresh everybody's memory, selection team is made up of 2 commissioners, our planning division manager, somebody from construction division, and then a sponsor rep. So made up of 5 folks on that selection team, and they each get the proposals, and then we go through a ranking process, and you have 1 month to review and rank your proposals. Over the years, we've made it a little bit longer. We've heard from you that you need a little more time, but I found to get too long, it doesn't matter. We're still calling on the last day to get those rankings in. So Katie will have to harangue people to do that. So, but you'll have about a month to review those proposals and so forth. Interviews this year, based on the rankings that come in, their aggregated rankings and so forth. Top 3 firms will get the interviews, and it's a random draw, but we do have all the slots all figured out and everything for the interviews. Interviews will be on Tuesday, September 22nd and Wednesday, September 23rd. Okay. The September 23rd will be a long day. We'll have a set of interviews in the morning and in the afternoon, and the previous afternoon on the 22nd, we'll have to have a couple interviews at least, unless things fall out. So out of the consultant selection process then, we come out with a consultant and a budget amount. The commission then takes action on that the day after after the interviews. The next day, you make a motion to accept these consultants in this order and so forth. You remember that? And we have motions and the budget amount. Those budget amounts are then plugged into the omnibus water bill, the draft omnibus water bill. But even before it gets there, we have the November meeting where we bring in all the construction recommendations. We now have the planning recommendations with the budgets, and that's all married together, which will ultimately go into the omnibus water planning bill and construction bill. And just so everybody knows, this coming year will be, can't believe I'm talking about this already, 1 year from now, will be a long session, a 2-month session in the legislature. and that would start January of 2027. And so obviously we go through the process of the omnibus bills and the projects, hopefully get through that, sign in law by the governor. And so we'd be approving contracts for these projects that you see before you today, if they were to go forward at the March meeting 1 year from now. So give you an idea. So that's the process, 1 year, basically 1 year from now, if everything went and these were going forward, we'd be looking at these, approving contracts for these projects 1 year from today. Much like today, we're on the docket, you've got 12 projects, planning projects that we started a year ago, okay, a year previous. So it's kind of a 13-month process with a 1-month overlap, the tails. March is the kind of the shoulder month, okay? And that's it.
Thank you, Barry.
Yep.
It's taken me 5 years to learn the 1 year process. The 13-month process. Anyone have any questions for Barry?
Mr. Chair, I do have a quick question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Barry, I was just wondering, and I know it's tricky because of the way you have to ultimately have all the interviews go on that 2-day process. But for example, our new member, Jared Whiteball, he's in Riverton. So I'm just confused, like, why aren't we giving him like LeClaire or Riverton and instead give him Cali? It just seems like, why aren't we giving, how are we, I mean, I know I'm at large, so I don't care where I get landed,
Right,
but
right.
I'm just curious.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Lisa Zolman-Dalton, just so you know, and that we did look at that, and you are obviously new on there. We wanted to have him kind of mentored by some of our project managers and so forth. Also, we did put him on the Hudson project specifically. If you'll see, he's on Hudson because there's a regional supply issue, and we had more Division 3 projects than we have commissioners. And so that's why we kind of spread it around a little bit. So wanted to give him something local, but also something in another area, not right there.
Thank you, Barry. And someone else had a question? Oh, Commissioner Pence.
Barry, I was looking at the bottom there, the in-stream flow study, and it's in Lincoln County. Are those in-stream flow studies designated to a certain river when the game of fish comes in? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Secretary Pence, yes, exactly right. The reach is my understanding, and the application. Chase Tavelli is our project manager on that on our side, and the sections, the segments this year that they're coming in for are in the Grays River, or in that area. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Barry.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, what's the one tomorrow? I mean, do we have dates for these?
Yeah, well, and that's funny you say that, Mr. Chairman, because I had one of my project managers say, I hope they know I'm going to jump on them right away. So I think, and we could ask our project manager who happens to be here, George Mosier, I think he has one tomorrow.
George?
Which project? Need more explanation? Okay.
Oh, George is an overachiever. He's got 2 tomorrow.
Mr. Chair, in response, I do actually have 2 set up for tomorrow. So off to a running start. Those of you that are looking at Hudson, there is a preliminary site visit for 8:30 in the morning. And if you are also assigned to Cowley, that'll be at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, same day. We can all race up there after the meeting.
Again, Mr. Chairman, these are optional attendance if you have the time and want to go up there and visit. Oh, and I think Project Manager Tavelli would like to talk.
Mr. Chair,
Chase?
this is Chase Tavelli, Water Development Office. I refuse to be outdone by George Mosier. However, I only have one scheduled for tomorrow, and that's the Goshen Irrigation District at 9:30. So if you're available, welcome. We'll have fun.
And Mr. Chairman, I would say, obviously, this is very last minute notice. So both of our project managers, I'm sure, would be happy to have a phone call with you after if you can't make it and bring you up to speed on how the project's site visits went. So.
And just to remind you, there is a second opportunity. Remember, this is the one without the consultants. There'll be a second one with the consultants in July.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions? There's no action required at this time by us, so we can continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is our planning project closeout memos. We've got 4 of these, so I'm guessing it's going to be 20 minutes-ish. Just want to make sure coffee's not catching up with anybody. If you're good, we'll continue.
Anyone need a break or can we continue? I think we can continue.
Okay, thanks. All right, so the first one is the Chugwater Master Plan, and we are on page 134 of the e-notebook. And Keith Clary, our project manager for that particular project, and two of the other projects you're going to hear about, will explain the memo.
Welcome, Keith.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. In the spirit of Barry's, cradle to grave, I guess this is the obituary part of the agenda. And so I'm Keith Clary, and I'm going to present the Chugwater Water Master Plan Level 1 study. And it had an appropriation of $209,000. And the selected consultant was AVI. And we looked at that particular project. The final contract amount was $156,471.04, and the contract savings was $52,292.96. And the Chugwater system is one that serves 163 people, and it has about 174 taps. And it has 5 wells that are in the Brule formation, or sorry, 3 wells that are in the Brule formation, and 2 of them are in town. One's out to the west several miles, and there's a transmission line from that western well into town, into the tank. And there's 2 tanks. There's a western tank and a northern tank. And the northern tank is definitely the oldest. It's a 1938 tank, tank number 1. It has a capacity of 90,000 gallons. And the newer tank is a 2003 and has about 100,000 gallon capacity. So we looked at the whole system and what their needs were. We looked at their existing system and what the plan was for them. And the project findings are that the tank, the 1938 tank, number 1 needs to be replaced. And that's yet to be determined what type of tank is going to be put in on that particular one. And then a second recommendation was putting in a transmission line between the 2 tanks, tank 1 and tank 2. And that way you could adjust the water between them directly instead of going through the system. And the third recommendation was electrical components and instrumentation in the SCADA system and upgrade that. And the third one, they've already done the SCADA update because their old SCADA system was basically failing. So that's already been completed. A public meeting was held last year for this project, and the office recommends the acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract. And then also when the sponsor comes in with an application, we'd recommend going to the next level of development in our program.
Thank you, Keith.
Any questions?
Are there any questions? Hearing none, I believe we need a motion to,
Yeah.
do we want to do these one at a time? I believe should, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a motion in the
Yep.
presentation here.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Inslee Dalton.
Mr. Chair, I move acceptance of the Chugwater Water Master Plan Level 1 study project as being complete, and further, the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project: that the commission recommend proceeding to the next level of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Inslee Dalton, second by Commissioner Kaylee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, the next one is on page 136, the Green River Rock Springs, Sweetwater County. Joint Powers Board Master Plan, and Keith will be presenting that one as well.
This one's for the Green River, Rock Springs, Sweetwater County Joint Powers Water Board Regional Water Master Plan, and it's a level 1 study, and we had an appropriation of $432,000 for this. The selected consultant was Sunrise Engineering Incorporated, and the final contract amount was $406,996.75. The contract savings amount was $25,003.25. This is a regional system that serves that whole area of about 40,000 people. They have a water treatment plant that's in Green River, and that can handle up to about 32 million gallons per day, and then has to be pipelined everywhere before the city of Green River, the city of Rock Springs, 4 outlying districts, and also one major industrial customer for the whole project. So they looked at all the systems and all the components on that, and did a very thorough study of looking at all those things that need to be done. And there's 7 proposed improvements for the Joint Powers Water Board. There's 2 for the city of Green River, and there's 9 for the city of Rock Springs, of which the priority number 1 is a new 24-inch transmission pipeline from Sweetwater Creek to Blairtown tanks, and that's the priority number 1 for slightly over $5 million. And there's some other priorities down to 4 there. Public meeting was held last year also, and the office recommends the acceptance of the final report submittals and closure of the consultant services contract. We'd also recommend that on application from the sponsors for these projects that you would proceed to the next level of program development. So, any questions?
Any questions for Keith? Commissioner Vore?
Had the Joint Powers Board ever had a previous study done?
Master plan? Yeah, they had one back around 2009, 2010. There was a couple of phases to that one, and it was very comprehensive, and they pretty much did every project that was recommended within that one. And so they came back in for a new regional water master plan study. And that's what this was.
Other questions? Hearing none, can we have a motion to accept the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that motion.
Commissioner Cott?
I move the acceptance of the Green River, Rock Springs, Sweetwater County Joint Powers Water Board Regional Master Plan Level 1 Study Project Report as being complete, and further, the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project: that the commission recommend proceeding to the next level of project development upon submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Hosey. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Keith.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, just to be as efficient as possible, Keith's going to be doing the pavilion groundwater supply. So if we could just maybe do that now while he's up here.
Yeah, it'd be
Okay.
fine.
Oh, and we're on page 141 with that one.
This is the closeout memo for the Pavilion Groundwater Supply Level 2 study. And the appropriation for this one was $1,116,000. James Gores and Associates was the selected contractor consultant for this one. Just to mention, James Gores has now retired and closed his business in Riverton. So just to know that he's no longer in doing engineering consulting. The final contract amount was $1,005,249.22. The contract savings amount was $109,831.78. The town pavilion is 240 people, and they are served with 134 taps. And they have 5 wells that are in the Wind River Formation. And the Wind River Formation, if anybody lives in Fremont County in that area, you know that is very variable as far as water quality and quantity, depending on what your well can produce. And so of those 5 wells that they are existing within the town pavilion, they put out an average of about 100 GPM. So the town requested a level 2 feasibility study for a test well, also in the Wind River Formation, but hopefully a little deeper and targeting a sandstone, a deep sandstone that's in that area. And the well, when we first bid the drilling contractors, we were exceeded the costs that we had for the consultant or the well drilling services on every one of the bids. So we had to go back to the legislature for a year and reappropriate another $439,000 to bring this budget up to this total. And then the well was able to be drilled. The first test well had some kind of a problem and was casing separation. So basically it had to be plugged and abandoned, and that was at the point of actually starting well development. So the well was completely constructed and it was about ready to be tested, and it was in development and it failed, and filter pack was coming into the borehole, into the well, sorry. And so therefore we had to re-drill offset 30 feet and re-drill the test well. And the second test well was successful, and it went to 1,070 feet, and it had casing and screen down to 1,065 feet. This well is a pretty successful well, and since it's one of the largest producing wells in that Wind River aquifer. So it has capability of more than 300 gallons a minute. And for recommendation wise, as far as long-term pumping, we're looking at 225 gallons a minute. Now compare that to the 5 existing wells produce a total of 100 gallons a minute. You can see how much more water is available. And it has the second best water quality of all the wells that the town of Pavilion's currently using. So it's not quite the best, but it's pretty close. And so the public hearing was held in last year for this one because it is a level 2. It had a hearing, and the office recommends acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract. And then whenever the sponsor applies for another step, another level in our program development, we recommend that they do that. I recommend acceptance of it. And then there's a proposed motion below. So any questions?
Any questions for Keith?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Summerall?
thank you. I just have a strange question. In Chugwater, I think you indicated they didn't know what kind of tank. It did indicate in the notes that it was a concrete tank. And here they have a welded steel tank. What is the best kind of tank to have? I was just more curious. Is there one that we like the best or not?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, if we look at tanks, it's something that has the benefits for storage tanks, whether they're above ground, below ground, partially buried, concrete, steel, elevated. There's a lot of different needs, and you pretty much have to engineer that particular storage tank depending on what the community needs.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, and Sylvia Dalton, I would add too that we like the cheapest storage tank that's going to meet the requirements. So when they bid that out, they'll bid out some ad alternates, and if if something comes in cheaper, that's what we'll pay for. But if they want to then use their own money for, say, a concrete tank that might be less operation and maintenance over the years, that's up to them to pay that difference.
So I have a question, Keith, is the test well, is it sized that it could actually be used and put into service as a producing well?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is. It's a
Mm,
full-size production test well.
I'm glad to hear that because I did some quick math and our cost of this was $7,500 a tap for this study. So I'm glad to hear that this can actually function as for that cost, that it can be something that can be put into use.
Mr. Chairman, the town of Pavilion is looking at potentially blending some of the better quality water with the lesser quality water and possibly removing one of the wells that has some of the worst quality to just dedicate it towards irrigation use rather than municipal use, because it just, the water quality, it's not really very good at all on some of those. They're over 12, about 1,200, over 1,000 total dissolved solids parts per million. And some of them are pushing 1,100 or 1,200.
They might be surprised how hard that water is on their lawns.
Yes, the EPA recommends nothing over 500 TDS, but a lot of communities have to use whatever's available, and there's 700, 800, 900, 1,000 or more TDS. So,
Any more questions? There's a motion that's been prepared. Can I have someone make that motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Kaylee.
yeah, I'll go ahead and make that motion. I move acceptance of the Pavilion Groundwater Supply Level 2 Study Project Report as being complete, and further the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project. That the commission recommend proceeding to the level 3 of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor. Based on the findings in the final report, the project is determined to be in the public interest. And 3, the project functions and services cannot realistically be provided by any person, association, or corporation engaged in private enterprise.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Kaylee, second by Commissioner Anselmi Dalton. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Keith.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Horse Creek Conservation District Master Plan. I'm going to have Sarah Barkston come up and present that one. Here she is. And we are on page 138 for this particular closeout memo.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and members of the public. My name is Sarah Barkston. I'm the Grants Administrator for the Wyoming Water Development Office, as well as a Planning Project Manager, and I'm pleased to present to you the Horse Creek Conservation District Master Plan Project Closeout. This is a typical planning project that reviewed the system inventory and recommended efficiency measures and future projects. In addition, there was a seepage study conducted using a acoustic Doppler current profiler to measure discharge at ditch sections with known issues. In addition, there was an evaluation of remote camera products to monitor critical locations in the system. There was a partial design for the Malcolm pipeline to submit for a level 3 application in November. And there were some conceptual designs for the recommended structure replacements. So the highlight, of course, is the Malcolm pipeline, which is of concern to imminently fail. They've done whatever they could to make it work last irrigation season. They've also done some patchwork and just trying to limp it along. But the sponsor is currently working with the NRCS district conservationists through the process for applying for EQIP funding that should align perfectly with our process for the level 3. Sorry, all the specifications. This is my first time through, so thank you for being patient with me. The appropriation was for $248,000. The contract was for $247,160. The selected consultant was AVI, supported by John Barnes Consulting and Anderson Consulting Engineers, which are now JUB. And the final pay request zeroed out the contract balance, including the discretionary task, which was used for including the Y-cross ditch in the system inventory, updating the GIS with the critical aging irrigation infrastructure standards, and finalizing the report. The public presentation was held on August 10th, 2025 at the Horse Creek Conservation District office in Hawk Springs. And they reviewed the master plan as well as the recommended projects, including the Malcolm Pipeline. That one is the highest ranking of the projects because of being risk at imminent failure. As well, 20% of the district is dependent on the pipeline, and the cost to repair is estimated at $1.2 million. 5 additional projects that are eligible for Water Development Commission funding were recommended and prioritized, including the Horseshoe Bend Siphon, which is $1.5 million approximately. This would eliminate about 6,000 feet of earthen ditch in one of the known seepage areas by installing approximately 2,000 feet of a 48-inch diameter HDPE siphon. The consultant recommended a future level 2 study for further feasibility on that one. The Y-cross structure is estimated at $50,000, and that would address a leaking headgate with damaged concrete and erosion that is undermining the downstream apron of the structure. Water supply is controlled using stop logs, and the structure is critical to the operation of the entire system for filling Hawk Springs Reservoir from Bear Creek. They're thinking that they might be able to apply for small water funding for that, as well as their own funds. The Schwab ditch and drop structure are estimated at $500,000. This would replace the structure that has been repaired but continues to erode and undermining the chute on both sides. Soils in the area are unstable and livestock contribute to erosion issues. The Woodard check structure is estimated at $200,000, and this project would replace the existing structure that is eroded by biological and physical activities during spring flows. The gate is in serviceable condition for continuing to hold water in the ditch high enough for turnout and into the farm supply ditches. And finally, 5 sections of ditch lining estimated at $800,000. This work involves replacement of approximately 1,300 feet of poor and failing concrete lining that results in water loss within the entire system. And the total project costs for all recommended projects, including the Malcolm Pipeline, is approximately $4 million. The office recommends acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the professional services contract. Staff has provided a proposed motion for the commission on pages 2 and 3 of the closeout memo and is available for questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Vore?
If I missed it in the closeout memo, I apologize. Are any of these components of this system that are listed on here as eligible projects are they in the aging infrastructure assessment?
Chairman, Commissioner Vore, they've been entered into the critical aging irrigation infrastructure through our database, the GIS. And again, the Y-cross ditch was not previously identified, and that one was highlighted and added as well because of the importance of it.
Are any of, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, are any of these then high priority? You know, Chase?
Mayor?
Yeah,
Do you want me to-
I'll turn it over to the expert.
Mr. Chair, Chase Tavelli. I'm in the planning division, and as Sarah noted, the RPIs were updated for each of these. I believe the first study was in 2013, something like that. And so some of these were evaluated early on. This is hot off the presses. Okay, so it was very difficult for me to get to these because they haven't been included in the original CII that was done. However, we did look at some of these this morning based on the new GIS, and what you're seeing here is RPIs, which is an overall ranking of 10.2 down to about 8.1 in their top 10 structures. And so, yes, they are ranking, and a 10 or more is about top 1% in the overall database. And just, if I may, the database is always evolving, and an example of that and how this is hot off the presses as well is originally we had 10,891 structures, and now we're about 15,000. And that would be because there are new studies that have been done. There's updates like this that take into account more structures like the ditch, that Y-cross or the Y-cross ditch. So always evolving, and this is hot off the presses. So as the last couple of days, I was able to get some of this information. Did I answer your question, Commissioner Vore?
Yes, thank you. Another question. Is there anything else on the Horse Creek system that functions? This looks like a pretty exhaustive list. I didn't think it was that big. But I'm not
Chairman,
familiar with it.
Commissioner Vore, I'll try to answer the question. Of the structures that were evaluated, only 10% were in poor condition and 3% failing. So they're in pretty good shape. They've been doing their maintenance and keeping on top of things, but they do have some critical aging irrigation infrastructure that ranked really high. So they're going to put in for level 2 for the projects that were recommended, aside from the Malcolm pipeline, which will be a level 3 this year.
Other questions? I have a comment, kind of an observation. I don't think this is unusual for our larger irrigation districts. It's looking at this, it serves around 10,000 acres, and there's an awful lot of these in the state. I think that was part of the reason for the critical aging infrastructure study to begin with. I also was looking at their assessments are around $30 an acre, a little more. That's pretty much in line with these size and larger districts from what I'm familiar with. Unfortunately, I'm not sure it's enough anymore to have an O&M fund that can keep up with the costs of the repairs that are necessary. And I really think it's a red flag to us that we're going to have a lot of requests down the road for some big projects. Not that I have any answers. If anyone does, they certainly speak up, but I think we're going to see a lot of applications for funding to replace things on these type of systems. Just more observation than anything. Any other questions or comments? If not, we have a motion. Anyone willing to make a
Mr. Chair?
motion? Commissioner Selmy Dalton.
Mr. Chair, I move acceptance of the Horse Creek Conservation District Master Plan project report is being complete, and further, the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project. 1, that the Commission recommend proceeding to the next level of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor. 2, based on the findings in the final report, the project is determined to be in the public interest.
I have a second?
I see number 3. I went down. I apologize. And finally, that the project functions and services cannot realistically be provided by any person, association, or corporation engaged in private enterprise. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Okay, now we have a motion of a second by Commissioner Kaylee. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Sora.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase.
All right, Mr. Chairman, still ready to move on? Okay. We are on agenda item number 9, and that's when we're going to get out our summary sheet here. And this is probably going to move fairly quickly because we've talked about these at length, either through previous meetings or now through the legislative session and all the committees that these go through. So the first item would be the Alkali Creek Reservoir Final Design, Amendment number 5. That's on page 145, and it's also just below the Small Water Project Program on the summary sheet here. And if you recall, this is just the additional funding for the Tri-Hydro contract to address design of these easement watershed type projects and to fill in some of the work to get to the final design of the actual dam itself, considering that there's been a lot of out of scope work done as part of these landowner discussions and trying to put concepts together over the past several years. So with that, I would ask for your favorable consideration of amendment number 5 to Tri-Hydro's contract.
Any questions? Can I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Vore,
Second.
second by Commissioner Choma. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Director.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, next agenda item is number 10. And these are basically all of our planning project contracts that have come out of the Omnibus Water Bill planning. So now we are under that section of the summary. And so this would be the 8 municipal master plans that we have. The level 2 study under account 1, which would be the Bedford and Turnerville Regional Supply. The level 1 project, Shoshone Irrigation District Master Plan, which is under our rehab account, account 2. And then also our 2 level 2 studies under account 2, which is the Casper Alcova Irrigation District Lateral Rehab and the Wheatland Source and Transmission Evaluation. So be happy to answer any questions you guys might have, but otherwise ask for your favorable consideration of those contracts so we can get started and helping these folks out.
So everyone understands these were all projects that we had reviewed in November, is that correct? And
Mr. Chairman, these actually started with Barry's explanation last March 1st of 2025. And then we brought, all the stuff we do in advance of bringing the recommendation to you guys in May, and then consultant selections and more discussion in November, and then through the session and all that.
right, so they've been through the session and back to us for contract approval.
And Mr. Chairman, I should reiterate, sorry to interrupt you, that Select Water Committee, again, just as a reminder, has reviewed and recommended everything we're talking about right now.
Okay. Any questions for the Director?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Vore?
move to approve the level 1, level 2 planning contract amendment or planning project contracts and amendments.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vore, second by Commissioner Hosey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr.
Well-
Chairman, the other thing I might point out too is, again, the session just ended here week and a half ago. So some of these are still in the process of going through the AG's office for review. So we don't actually have all of them back. So I think how I say that in the past is upon AG review and approval, you're making the motion to approve the projects or the contracts. So I should mention that.
Is that agreeable with those who made the motion? Okay, motion passes. Director, can we take a 10-minute break?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The Mayor Pavilion. Works in front.
Really?
Give you guys a heads up. We created these emails just for workflow purposes.
Okay.
So, you know, as we move through the years, we switch officers. We just have one place to go for the signing. We also log your guys on the internet and into that email. So if you see there's a little thing in your bar at the bottom that says inbox, so you're in the secretary one, you're in the chairman one.
Okay.
So those emails, hopefully, I don't know what time this morning, but they should start flooding in. And so as you've approved anything on the agenda, you're free to go ahead and start signing. They may be in yours first, but you know, it'll flow from you to you. But then I guess my only other thought was anything that you can do before you leave would be amazing. Don't want to make you sit here, but
Well, I didn't realize they're going to have a tour of that River Irrigation District project. I'm down here.
yeah,
I won't be able to do it in a month or two, so I might just
if
stay.
you want to stick around, we can put you
Yeah,
up in a hotel or whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to think on it. I think I may just do that because I haven't been able to get to do very many of these that I've been assigned to, so.
Okay, but just for efficiency, know that it's there. And whatever you can do, just help the workflow. Everybody's still adapting to this electronic workflow process, so we've had a little trouble with the sponsors kind of keeping up. But so anything you guys can do to keep it moving will be helpful.
Yeah. So some, those that have,
If you click on yours, you may have them in there already. Down on the bottom right there. Yeah, so
those,
that we've already done agenda wise.
they're all ready for document
Yep.
now.
Exactly. So you can start signing
Hey,
break or after the meeting, and then they'll go to Dennis.
but
Anything that
until
you
after
can
the
do.
meeting.
Right. As you get them done, they'll come to me and I'll sign them and docu-sign them and we'll get as far as we can get.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
And you guys can take this with you, so anything you don't get, you can log back in later. It's the
Okay.
email and password, and it's a private Gmail.
My computer's at the computer repair shop at home right now. And that's why I do all my email at home. So I better do what I can here.
Thank you, guys. Sorry to sidetrack you there.
That's all right.
Yeah, oh God, so it's okay, it's. But it's actually the Dennis, that's probably 2 blocks where, so I was thinking of these guys every time I tried to stop in a couple of times, they were still. You sure? Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's, I think I'm just at that age now where, like you said, I need something, you know, that your diabetes, if it gets out of control, got doctor friends to try again, you know, listen, my heart's been acting up a little bit, my new heart doctor, I thought you're told him, but said, man, so I was on it again. Yeah.
Okay, Director.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we are on agenda item number 11. So we are roughly, again, on our summary sheet here, you're about page 575 on the e-notebooks. And these are our University of Wyoming agreements for both the UW Office of Water Programs, which is a biennial budget for Greg Kerr that puts together all these projects of $175,000, and the UW Water Research Program MOU, which would have the two projects that were discussed and chosen to move forward with as projects this year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or ask for your favorable consideration of those agreements.
Anyone have any questions? Commissioner Kaylee.
Yeah, Justin, you kind of threw me for a loop. I looked down there and I saw that there was a party covered for the MOU. And I'm like, man, that's the first party we've ever had. And then figured it out, but
Yeah.
no, I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hosey.
I'd like to move that we approve both of the Wyoming programs as advised by the staff.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Vore. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, then moving on to agenda item number 12. These are all of our construction project agreements and amendments to existing construction projects that again came through the omnibus water bill construction. So we're near the bottom of that summary sheet. Under our account 1 new development projects, we've got the 4 Alpine Well, Gillette, LaGrange, and then the Little Snake River Battle Lake Modification Forest Management Demonstration Project. That's a mouthful that we talked about earlier. Flipping over on the back of the summary sheet, we then have our 17 account 2 rehab projects. And moving on down just past that second gray line, we get into our amendments, and we've got those split out per account. So we've got the 5 time extensions under account 1, and then also the additional funding for Hoback Junction Public Water System. And again, just as a reminder, we did just pre-construction last year. They got all their easements in place, came back for construction this year. So that was as planned. And then below that next gray divider line, we have the account 2 amendments, those 3 all time extension. And then the last project on the page would be our 1 account 3 amendment, and that's for the Alkali Creek Reservoir. And as mentioned earlier, that's a time extension of 1 year on that $59 million appropriation. So again, we're happy to answer any questions and otherwise ask for your approval.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Vore.
Hopefully you, Mr. Director, you can clear up some of my confusion a little bit on the forest management contract. Will that then go directly to a contract agreement between the conservation district or a contractor, or how I'm not sure I understand exactly how that money's going to flow.
Mr. Chairman, we would have an agreement, or the agreement in front of you is between the Water Development Commission and, as a joint sponsor as they applied, the Savory Little Snake Water Conservancy District and the Little Snake River Conservation District. So that is our agreement with them. And then after that, I would assume it would act like any other construction project where they would go out and contract with a contractor actually to do the work.
Another question. So is this an as-built contract? They do the work, they get paid?
Mr. Chairman, it would be on a monthly reimbursement type schedule. As they do stuff, they submit invoices for reimbursement as we go. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Everyone's aware that we've been over all of these projects previously. They've been to the legislature. Now they're back to us for final review and approval of the contracts. Is there a motion to approve these contracts?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
I would
Wilson.
like to make that motion to approve these contracts as presented.
Do I have a second? Motion by Commissioner Hosey, second by Commissioner Pants. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Now we're on to agenda item number 13. This is on page 839 of your e-notebooks. And just as a reminder, this is the Douglas Sheep Mountain Well number 2 purchase agreement. And if you recall back in November, George explained this project to us. They drilled a well. They're now interested, they as in the city of Douglas, under a level 2 study. They are interested in purchasing that well for the actual construction costs that were put into it from the Water Development Commission. As you recall then, we needed to put legislation together as part of the omnibus water bill construction that passed with the construction bill. And we alluded to back in November that then we would have an agreement in place with them for your consideration that would kind of detail out the responsibilities for continued maintenance, operation, and the final disposition of that well. So that is what is in front of you. If you have any questions, we can have George come up and answer those. Otherwise, we'd ask your favorable consideration of that agreement.
Does anyone have any questions? I think we had pretty good discussion previously on that, so we have a motion to accept that agreement.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Nasomi Dalton.
Mr. Chair, first, I'd like to give kudos to George, just because, thank God, as we get rid of these one by one, good job on it. And I would move that to approve the well purchase agreement of the Douglas Sheep Mountain Well number 2 as presented.
Have a second?
That's it.
Second by Commissioner Lawson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, item number 14 is we have one project closeout memo for a construction project, and I'll hand it over to Bill Brewer, our Deputy Director of Construction. And sorry, Bill, we're on page 845.
So Chairman, Commission, got a project closeout here. Following our kind of slowdown post-COVID, we have been moving along fairly quickly recently, and you will probably be seeing me a lot with closeout meetings throughout this year, because a lot of projects that kind of had stalled out 2-3 years ago finally got through construction and bidding and have actually been being completed. So this is just one of quite a few you will probably be seeing me this year as these backed up. So this is on the Cottonwood Irrigation District Transmission Pipeline Project. Cottonwood has done quite a few of these projects. They had steel irrigation transmission lines installed in the early 70s. All of those are in pretty poor condition. As they remove them, those steel pipes pretty much disintegrate upon removal. So we're pretty much rebuilding this entire system with PVC, which will last considerably longer. But this is essentially one of many phases that we've done out here that they've broken up into what they could afford and we could afford as time went on. This is an older one that was still at a 67% grant and loan program. Later ones went to a 50-50 program. Total budget for this project was $2.5 million, a little over $2.5 million. The engineering was completed by Sunrise Engineering, and the total engineering at the end of the project was a little over $163,000. Construction was completed in 2 phases. However, the same engineering or same construction firm won both contracts and completed the work. In both cases, they completed the work under the engineer's estimate, which is nice to see. And then we finally had a little bit of miscellaneous costs that was related to the advertisements in the local paper for this. That was the only miscellaneous cost we had for this project. So in the end, the final project cost came in at just under $2.5 million. Water Development's share for this was a little over $2.1 million. They did also obtain a little bit of funding through WaterSmart which they put about $345,000 towards this project. So we will be reverting $372,457 back into account one to be redistributed later this year. So it's a pretty quick summary of that. Is there any questions related to that?
Thank you, Bill. Anyone have any questions? I don't think there's any questions. Bill, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then
All right, Mr. Chairman, we've got a handout for our next agenda item. We have a MOA funding application request, and I'll give a second to have David do that.
Commissioner or Chairman Commission, Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction again. As part of the office, we administer some MOA and MOA 2 funds through the Bureau of Reclamation. These funds are generated by electricity sales from dams down throughout the Colorado River, and that money is redistributed back to kind of through the states for work on Bureau of Reclamation projects that meet the requirements of this program. All of these projects have to have some relation to the CRISPA, which was the Colorado River Storage Act from the 50s. Originally, this funding was only available for new projects. However, new irrigation projects have pretty well slowed down, especially on the Colorado River. So legislation was reworked to allow this money to be used both for reconstruction of those previous projects, and it's been opened up a little bit more from that is for any project now that benefits a previous CRISPA project. In the state, it appears we only have 2 irrigation districts that actually meet the requirements for this funding, and that's the Eden Valley Irrigation District and the Bridger Valley Water Conservancy District. They have projects that are eligible to receive this funding. So pretty much they're the only 2 we see. There are some support projects we have funded. I'll get into that a little bit later here. But as far as actual construction projects, those appear to be the only 2 entities that are eligible for this. The Eden Valley Irrigation District has put good use to these funds. We did a raise on the Big Sandy Reservoir a few years ago. That was paid for. It was originally looking at being a Wyoming water development project. We ended up 100% funding it through this MOA program, which saved the state a considerable amount of money. And then 2 years ago was the last request we had for this program that was also through the Bridger Valley Conservancy District, and that's for improvements they're doing on the State Line Dam. So this application that came in is for extraordinary maintenance. Through water development, we don't cover extraordinary maintenance, but the MOA program does allow it. So essentially what we're doing is reviewing and recommending these funds. The Bureau, it's Bureau money, and the Bureau is going to be doing the work and sending out the money, but it does come through the commission to review and approve these requests for this funding that is done. So, so just kind of a summary of the main project they're requesting. They have 4 items that they requested extraordinary maintenance on. A 62-inch ultrasonic flow meter at the State Line Dam, 5 30,000 BTU propane heaters at different facilities within their thing to keep things from freezing up throughout the winter and breaking things. Some log boom sections that have worn out and need to be replaced. And all of those were considered both by the office and the Bureau of Reclamation to be extraordinary maintenance. They had also requested a replacement of the battery bank that runs their instrumentation at the State Line Dam. We initially thought that seemed to be more, maybe not annual maintenance, but a planned routine maintenance rather than extraordinary maintenance. After about a week and a half of chasing down people with Bureau Reclamation, they did agree that they also didn't consider that to be extraordinary maintenance. So we removed that from their original request, which their original request is attached. So kind of jumping through this whole program, kind of going back and forth, sorry about that. But the MOA 2 agreement expires September 30th of 2037. So by 2037, we have to assign all of this money to a project. After it's assigned, we have until 2047 to actually complete those projects and get all that money spent. So we do have quite a bit of time to use this funding up. However, as I mentioned, this is the first request in 2 years to take any money out of this account. We currently have, I think, count up here is 8 different portions of work going on, which has taken up a little over $35 million of that money. Like I say, the 2 big projects in here is the Flaming Gorge, or I'm sorry, the Big Sandy Reservoir enlargement and the Farson Lateral 1 project. Those were both done for Eden Valley Irrigation District. And then some of the support projects, the Upper Green Remote Sense Data Study, the Flaming Gorge Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention, which is trying to prevent any invasive species, primarily zebra mussels and quagga mussels, entering the Flaming Gorge systems. And then the Black Forks Gauging Station and some administration costs there. And the other big project going on right now for the Bridger Valley program is the State Line Spillway improvements. They're doing some work on that dam as part of this project. So, and then the Bureau is holding about $3.5 million for contingency. The idea there is if we go through and we sign all these funds to different projects and we get towards the end and we realize we're short funds, they're holding that money. If we get out 8-9 years from now and that we still don't need that contingency, they will release that for projects, but they want to hold that money until we get some projects completed. Actually, most of the projects we have completed under budget, so we haven't needed any contingency up to this point on these. And then they also hold a small amount for their administration. They've held out $35,000. We still have about $21,000 of that administration money available to use. So as of right now, there is $14,569,521 available to be assigned. This funding request is essentially $98,450 is our recommendation after removing that battery bank. And following, if this is approved and goes through, $14,471,071 would remain in the account that we have the next 11 years or so to assign to other projects, essentially for those, that upper river or Colorado River area, and essentially only those 2 districts are the primary receivers of this funds. So that's kind of quick and dirty, but if there's any questions, I'd go into it more. Oh, and the sponsor is online, I'm sorry, to answer any questions.
Okay, other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Pence?
Are these accounts interest bearing as they're sitting in there for 11 years?
Because it's Bureau Reclamation money. Actually, the money isn't all there right now. It's projected money from those electricity sales over time. So those counts are constantly being refreshed. So honestly, money gets shifted around. You know, there's so much money in there. We claim some of it. Utah claims some of it. When we claim it, it may not actually even be in the account yet. So my guess is through the Bureau of Reclamation, they are interest bearing. However, we won't see that interest.
Other questions? So that was something that I was wondering about, because you mentioned that the money was from power generation. I was thinking that over from now till the end of this MOU, are the accounts going to continue to accrue funds? And it sounds like this is an estimate of what it will be at the end of the MOU. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's an estimate. It's probably a slight underestimate. So my guess is at some point in time, there will be a MOA 3 released when they figure out where we are. But it's honestly pretty nice of them to project out this far and allow us these funds to be used and at least give us some control over what is essentially Bureau money to guide them a little bit on what we want done within Wyoming.
Are there other questions? So Director, our action is what do we need to do?
Mr. Chairman, so I think you would be reviewing and recommending to the Bureau of Reclamation that this project as presented be funded through the MOA 2 program.
Okay.
I would like to make that motion that we approve the $98,450,000 for the proposed MOA budget for the Bridger Valley Water Conservancy District extraordinary maintenance projects.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cott, second by Commissioner Choma. Any discussion?
We need to pause here.
I'm just wondering if the sponsor would like to speak.
Certainly. Would you like to give us any information?
You bet, if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Very good, thank you. I appreciate your consideration here. I am the new manager for the Bridger Valley Water Conservancy District. And just a couple of things to note, we recognize the battery question and we'll be funding those batteries on our own. But appreciate the opportunity to apply. One thing I wanted to clarify, I think that I believe our application called for the meter replacement at Meek's Cabin. But we would like to open that up and say if we can't get this money in time for Meek's Cabin, we'd like to use this money for replacing the flow meter at State Line as well. We may, depending on timing and how quick the Bureau can approve this funding, we may have to buy the flow meter for Meek's Cabin ourselves, but we'd like to use this money to replace the State Line flow meter. It's the same year, it's the same model, it's the same type of a meter, and just think it's probably time to replace it as well. And one other thing I would like to add is we are putting together another project. We'll be coming back for some more extraordinary maintenance for some concrete repair on these structures. And so hopefully I'll be sending in a new application soon.
Okay, thank you. Bill, does that change anything as far as our motion?
I don't believe so, because ultimately the Bureau decides whether they use the funds or not. We're just giving them guidance. So I don't believe, as long as it's used for an ultrasonic valve on one of the two dams, I think it's in line with what our consideration is.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your attendance as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, other items for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any. I have one item to add to the agenda, but it's not really an official agenda item, and I'll wait until after we talk about future meeting schedule for that.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss? One thing I'd like to mention is in the past, I think at the May meeting, we've had a little bit of an orientation. Is that something on the radar?
Mr.
Coming
Chair,
up?
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you before you're done talking. Mr. Chairman, that is, been talking with Commissioner White Bull about potentially having him come down a little bit early and we can sit down with him, our different departments, and give him as much information as he wants and kind of have a little orientation. And we can open that up again. And just figured most everybody has gone through that, and don't know if we need an official orientation, but we do plan to sit down with Commissioner White Bull before May.
Okay, appreciate that, Jason. I think maybe if when that arrangements are made for that, maybe just send an email to all of us and anyone else that has interest in attending. And let the office know.
Okay. And I'm guessing it's going to coincide with if we have a workshop for May, if we feel that's needed once we get closer to the date, we'll either have it probably the morning of the workshop. You know, we typically do that in the afternoon and have the meeting the next day. Or if we're just going to have a meeting, we'll have it the evening before or the afternoon before, but we'll be in contact and let everybody know.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything? All right, moving on to the summer meeting and tour in August.
So, Mr. Chairman, we've reached out to a couple of folks on the commission here. We haven't had, like last year, Commissioner Cott was so gracious to set up our tours of the Trona mines, and we haven't really had a lot of folks from the commission looking for particular tours or with ideas. We've looked back at where we've done tours over the years, and maybe Water Division 2, the northeast portion of Wyoming, would be ripe for one. We've talked to Commissioner Vore about that in relationship to some of the rare earth mineral projects and things going up there. I don't know that they're really far enough along really to be something that would be very interesting to look at yet. And if you recall, a couple of years ago when we were out in Green River Rock Springs, we were also in an election year, and the primaries are in August, and we just didn't have a very good turnout that particular year. So that's going to be what we're probably facing with legislators again this year. So what we are proposing at this point in time, unless anybody feels strongly, is to skip the tour this year and maybe start looking at an every other year tour. It does cost money. We're traveling different places. I know there's a lot of value in those as well. So that the thought right now is to not have a tour. Most likely we would have the meeting in Cheyenne, and like to open it up, I guess, for your guys' thoughts on that.
We had a little conversation last night about it at dinner. Does anybody want to weigh in on that and some of the things that were discussed?
Mr. Chairman, just to add to Director Mead's point, there, to my knowledge, and I don't know what Todd's information is that he might have available, but relative to the development of the rare element activities in the northeast part of the state, I don't know where the prototype plant is that's being built over around Upton. I'm not sure what the status of that is. I don't think it's online yet. My understanding is that the actual potential mine site has that operation plan has yet to be submitted to the Forest Service, and so they won't initiate a revised environmental evaluation until the company does come through the door with an operation plan, and that's what'll stimulate that NEPA. And until that point, it's just a conversation. That I'm not sure that anybody really understands exactly what's going on and what the status of again of the prototype plant is over around Upton. I'm not sure what that is either, and even with that operation plan in place, it's probably years out processing through the environmental procedures to get to the point where they would even be making some sort of a determination on what might go forward or not on that mine. And there's not only that, there's not only the actual mine activity, but there's a also a plant of some sort that they would need to have up on the mountain, and then a road system and power. And so the extent of what it would take to bring that even into focus is pretty extensive. So where that is yet to be determined, and there's always lots of things to look at and see and do. But that would be a primary interest. And so it's preliminary.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Commissioner Cayley, you mentioned something last night about possible idea of something right here in Cheyenne. if I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken.
was just kind of throwing that out, you know, we don't have to have necessarily on a certain day in the summer, a big, you know, whole day bus operations and all that kind of stuff, just to check on a couple of good projects, especially if it's in the area where we're having meetings like Casper or even Cheyenne. You know, I know I haven't even been out and seen the power plant that they put in at the water treatment facility here in Cheyenne since it's went online. And we were involved in a lot of that design of that, and I've never even seen it. So, but those kind of things we could do, you know, wouldn't be a big deal to maybe skip this one out this year because of some of that stuff, but maybe we can get them to say, hey, come out at the end of one of our meetings like this and see that power plant, you know. So there's some things in this area that wouldn't cost as much, and it could just be open to check out, you know. And then when we're in Casper, I'm sure there's some projects out there that we could take a couple hours and just drive over to it at the end of one of our meetings and check it out as well, without having to have that big formal full day, you know, costly type event, you know. So I'm up for that. I'm up for, you know, because I remember a couple of those, man, wiped me out. You know, they were, we get back to the motel about 6:30 and it was like, I'm going to bed. So yeah, it can be a lot on you. So yeah, it's whatever's good for the office, I think is good for us. Not speaking for everybody, but I think it's whatever's good for the office, and we hate to have you guys put that kind of effort in, and then because of elections or something else that we don't get the turnout we have. That's not good. So.
Okay, thank you. Director?
Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to reach out to the City of Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities. Maybe our August meeting ends up being 2 days. You know, normally we have the workshop half a day, then the tour one day, and then the meeting the third day. And so maybe we can incorporate something in where you guys come in the night before. We have a workshop in the morning, go out for a couple hours, say out to the hydropower, and then have the meeting the next day. So kind of shorten it, but still get something to go look at. So we can look into that, work with Commissioner Cayley. Be happy to do that. The November meeting, I think that's a good idea. November meeting, as we all know, ends up being a fairly long, lengthy meeting as well, because we have all of our sponsors coming in for our construction projects and all those things, and there's a lot to cover. But we can definitely keep in mind in the future on different types of projects if there's something to highlight to how to incorporate that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I might also just note that I know several of us was talking that a lot of people want to go up and see the work up there on the diversion canal and some of that kind of stuff that was done, you know, or that's been in operation for a little bit, and like that boring machine, you know, wouldn't take a lot of time, but I'd like to see how something like that works, you know. So
Are you talking Grable or
yeah,
GID?
Yeah. So, you know, it's those kind of things we could just find out through the year. There's an opportunity to go up and see that, and guys that want to could go up, and same thing for the staff. You know, the staff could want to see something like that. Be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've actually been doing some of that with our staff just because get experience. One person might be very familiar with agricultural projects, one municipal, and kind of getting a team out to some of these projects that are a little closer to see some of those things. So we'll keep that in mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an official meeting, I think is what you're getting at. We
You're right.
just kind of throw out the invite and then let the folks know that are offering that up, how many people might be coming up, and if you can make it great. So we'll keep that in mind. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Okay, I was on the other end of the table last night, but, I mean, I like having the tours. I don't really think it's the end of the world if Select Water doesn't participate. Having been on Select Water, I shouldn't throw myself under the bus, but still. I would be interested at some point, though. This Little Snake River Battle Lake modification of forest management and that proposed reservoir up there. I haven't been down to that area. And all the stuff that they put in for. There's a lot of things that go down in that area, and I was just curious. Maybe not this time, but at some point I'd be interested if there's some sort of tour of that. Just
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Anselmi Dalton, it's been a while ago that we were down in the Little Snake River Basin touring some of that stuff, and I believe we looked at some small water projects, but we can definitely keep that in mind as well. Yeah, I'm just trying to think in my mind how the Battle Lake modification forest management might play out over time, and so we'll definitely keep that in mind. Okay.
Thank you, Director. I would like to comment that I know your office has done their best to try to move these around and maybe not make it appear that you're playing favoritism with one division over another or something like that. But I think sometimes, like what Ron said about some of these projects here around Cheyenne area, maybe over to Torrington, where we can couple it with a regular meeting, a lot less expensive logistically for your office, motel reservations. We could all just still stay here. And I don't care if we see more projects here than we do in Division 3 or Division 2 or whatever. Maybe others have a different opinion, but I enjoy the tours, the information we get from it. And I mentioned last night, we put in a lot of personal time on these things. Sometimes it's nice to just, have a little break and see some things, learn some things. It's a little bit of a carrot to entice you to continue to be excited about the job. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on your comment and the carrot, and I'm a short timer on this board. I'll be done here in 9 months or so, but I still remember my first meeting was a tour up by the Alkali Dam area, and it was a big vacant valley. But that image, every time we talk about Alkali Dam, that image comes back to me. So I mean, there's kind of, even though there's not much at a site, there's benefit because it familiarizes you with the issues and topics that come up. And I kind of like going with Select Water because on these tours, you get to interact with people on a different level, and it makes a whole better working relationship. And I guess that's my comment. Yeah. I'm for every other year or whatever, however we want to modify that, but that's the benefit of what we have done. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on that? John? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I want to follow up on Mr. Cayley's comment. And we always have a fairly large meeting in November in Casper. You could take that opportunity to go over to Reclamation's Control Center. It's if you haven't seen it, it's one, it's pretty impressive. But two, the Control Center not only controls all the generators in Wyoming that are reclamation, that's Boyson, Buffalo Bill, all the generators that are on the North Platte. But they also control the generators at Yellowtail Dam, and as far as the state capital in Montana, Helena, Canyon Ferry Dam. So it's a fairly impressive operation, and that be as an opportunity that you could get not only the commission, but maybe the Select Joint Committee would like to see that, because it controls a lot of water and delivers a lot of water to many irrigation districts in Wyoming.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's another good suggestion. So I'm writing all these things down.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to future meeting schedule.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I think I really pretty much covered this already. Right now, we're scheduled for May 6th, 7th. I'll let you know if we need a workshop and then how that orientation might play into that. And then what we just discussed about August, that'll either be, most likely it's going to be a 2-day meeting instead of a 3-day meeting, and we'll figure out what might work best, whether it be the 4th or 5th or the 5th or 6th. So we will let you know as we continue to think about that.
Hey, thank you.
With that, if I could just, not necessarily an official agenda item, but I wanted to let everybody know that one of our employees has an opportunity to further his career, and we never fault anybody for that. And he didn't know I was going to point him out today, so I apologize in advance. But that's our fiscal manager, David Ray. He's done so much for our office and our fiscal department and just been a mentor to me and a friend, and it's been great. So we wish him well. We won't get to see him every day, but hopefully he stays in touch. I'm sure he will. So just wanted to recognize him for everything he's brought to our office. So that's all.
Thank you, David, for what you've done for us as well, making sure we get paid. Okay. Next is election officers. Before we do that, I want to tell everybody that don't jump up and leave as quick as we're done with the election, because Jason would like to talk to us. This is not an executive session, but he would like to talk to us just a little bit about Alkali and bring us up to date on that. Some things that may have developed since the last time we talked about it. We didn't want to drag out the regular part of the meeting with that discussion. So with that, we'll move on to election officers. And the first thing we will need is a nomination for chairman to replace me,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Mr. Chair, I would move to propose that Commissioner Choma be appointed as the chair.
I have a nomination for Commissioner Choma. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Can I have a motion to that nominations cease and that we have a unanimous ballot for Mr. Choma?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Pence. Have a second for that?
Second.
Second to nomination cease. All in favor? Opposed? Congratulations, Bob. We'll take over the gavel next month. And now we need a nomination for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lawson.
I would like to bring forward the name of Dennis Pence for vice chair. He has demonstrated a very strong skill so far, and I think he would make a great vice chair.
Second.
Thank you for that. We have a nomination for Commissioner Pence. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Can I have a motion to cease nominations?
Mr. Chair, I move we cease nominations.
Have a motion and a second to cease nominations and unanimous ballot for Commissioner Pence. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we now need a nomination for secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Todd Hosey. He has excellent skills in that area. He signs his name very well.
He will, if he is elected, then he will get to use DocuSign. So we have a nomination for Commissioner Hosey. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I need a motion for nominations to cease. Motion's made to cease nominations. A second?
Second.
We'll now vote on the motion to cease nominations, a unanimous ballot for Commissioner Hosey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have our new officers.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anselmi Dalton.
Mr. Chair, I would just want to say thank you so much for leading us in an exceptional manner. You've done a great job, and I appreciate all your hard work. And I think you've done an excellent job, and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If I was a smart aleck, I'd say just throw money, so. Okay, can I have a motion to move to adjourn the meeting? Meeting's adjourned.